Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first, in their covered wagons. They find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's blockchainfuturetechexpo.com. Thank you.
Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with Future Tech Podcast. My guest today is Matt Oguz, founding partner in Venture Science. The website is venture-science.com. Matt, how you doing?
Hi, Richard. I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So I just want to start off directly. Tell me about Venture Science. What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. We're located in San Francisco, and we are on the investment side of things. So we invest in technology companies. Traditionally, we've invested in early-stage companies, but this year we've transitioned more into investing in sort of mid to late stage companies as well. So not only we engage with the companies in their early stages, but we also look at them as they evolve and grow and progress.
So what constitutes early stage versus middle or late stage? What does that look like to someone that doesn't know?
Essentially, that to us, that's technical for the amount of capital that the company's raising, essentially. So, angel stage or seed stage, they're typically raising anywhere from $500,000 to maybe $2 million. Mid stage, they're now raising. They've progressed. The product's out there. People are using it. Now they're looking to scale, and so now they're raising maybe upwards of $3, $5, $10, $20 million companies. And later stage companies are companies who've raised the early stage, they've done well, and then they raise more capital, and now they need even more capital to grow. And so those are companies who are in need of much larger capital influx into their companies. So, the average amount that goes into each stage and, how they're named these days, whether this much equals angel or seed, what have you, changes a lot, and it's not really relevant. But looking at companies in their sort of lifetimes as a private company, and these are companies that are young, these are companies that are new, and they're going after disruptive technologies. Now, of course, with the onset of blockchain, we're very much interested in companies developing solutions in that realm.
Have you invested much in blockchain-based companies, or is that like a brand new area?
What's that been
We
like?
are investors in Ripple, for example. It's a best of breed company. In terms of blockchain companies, we're really interested in finding those who have the value proposition by which they're going to be the winner in their particular space. This is a little bit different than how we used to invest or how most venture capital firms used to invest, in which we would look at a company with a particular solution for maybe a smaller problem, and if they executed well, we really, really like that. Now, in the blockchain realm, we like companies who are going after much larger problems, but at the end, they started out with the end goal of being the end-all, be-all, the biggest game in town or the monopoly in that particular area that they're essentially going after. And so if you look at Ripple, for instance, that's exactly what they're doing. They're going after the payment space, looking to replace Swift and a bunch of others. So that's why we really, really like that company. I think they're going to do great.
Yeah, it seems like this past year, there's a lot of competition in almost every niche in crypto or in blockchain. So how do you know who's going to be the leader? How do you figure that out?
You don't know. Of course, there is no recipe or crystal ball for anyone to say this company is going to be the winner. However, you do know what some of the ingredients are. For instance, what's the makeup of the team, where they came from. And this is another difference between blockchain companies that we see today and the startups that we used to see, say, 2 or 3 years ago. Before, we would look at very young, sort of new teams, co-founders maybe dropped out of college or right out of college, starting a company. Now we're seeing more experienced people with deep knowledge in their expertise areas. They come from a number of different companies. Their tenure covers a lot of different things, and then they get together and then they create a company in that blockchain space, going after winning the entire segment that they're in. And so when you compare companies, you really look at where the team came from, you look at the technology, you look at their target market. Of course, the bigger the better. You look at potential margins, how they're selling the products. Venture science, we're a lot more calculated than maybe some of the other venture investors out there. We're a lot more quant-driven, and we try to quantify all of the attributes of these companies and try to understand how all of these attributes contribute to the potential risks and rewards that we would see in a given company. And so it's a difficult task. It's something that we spend a lot of time on. But at the end of the day, those are some of the key parameters that you really want to cover when you're looking at companies, not only in the blockchain realm, but in any other sub-vertical as well.
Well, I figure you'd have a perspective on the market that a lot of people wouldn't have because you evaluate so many companies. So, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what do you see as happening now? First off in the crypto space, it seems like ICOs are, coming to a point where they've attracted negative attention from the SEC and CFTC. Where do you see things going this year?
Yeah, so in terms of the ICOs, when they first started out, it was just kind of the Wild West. Anything was up for grabs and people did anything and everything. And of course, that attracted the attention of the regulators, not just here in the United States, but around the world, and rightfully so, because when you offer something, a portion of your company or what have you, then you need to pay close attention to the rules and regulations that cover that. And so the SEC rightfully stepped up, provided guidance, provided information, and provided essentially a number of key opinions in terms of how one should conduct an initial coin offering, or however other way that they're looking to raise capital for their organizations. And so if you're an investor, you really want to make sure that the company that you're looking into complies with all of the rules and regulations, not only in your home country, but around the world. And so I think The SEC has a phenomenal group of people there working. They understand the space very well, and I think going forward, the companies that understand these rules and laws and regulations and play by the book are the companies that are also well funded. They have not only technical teams, but they also have legal and regulatory teams in-house. Because remember, these are the companies that want to change the world. They want to go after a certain subvertical and own it. It's not small task. It's not like, two guys dropped out of college and create a company out there. These are vast propositions. And so things should be taken very, very seriously in that realm, and the investors should pay close attention to the companies who are in compliance with the SEC and any other regulator around the world. And so that would make things a little bit more difficult, but I think it would make things a little bit safer and secure and better for everyone in the long run. Now, in terms of your other question, cryptocurrencies, what's happening in the marketplace and Bitcoin or what have you, I think one huge element to really pay attention to is the exchanges. Running an exchange is no small task. If you look at the New York Stock Exchange, they've been around, I don't know how many hundreds of years, at least 100 years, if I'm not mistaken. And so running an exchange, essentially a platform where instruments are bought and sold and markets are made and transactions are carried out is really, really not easy. Just because a platform has a name and they call themselves an exchange and the website looks beautiful, it doesn't mean that all of the underlying technology, the methods, ways by which transactions should be matched and carried out in ways that does not disrupt the marketplace, that does not disrupt and in certain cases crash the market for that particular instrument. It's very, very important. And I think going forward, 2018, 2019, the leading exchanges are going to get better and better and better. Hopefully, that's my hope as an investor. They're going to learn a lot more. And once the exchanges are, I guess, quote unquote, stable, and the transactions are, because if you just go to any discussion forum, any Reddit page, people are complaining about, my transaction didn't take place, and I send the coins never made it there. So those are things that you hear not just once or twice, but across the board. And so they kind of got in gear real quick, a little too fast maybe, to kind of go after the exchange space. And I think the big and serious ones are going to fix those problems one after another. And once we have stable exchanges facilitating, these transactions, then I think the market's going to come to a more and more stable place. Right now, some minor news breaks, and all of a sudden you see these vast movements one way or the other in these exchanges. And you also read reports about, I don't know whether they're true or not, but there's a lot of reports and analysis around what the true volume levels are, whether or not those came across inflated in the exchanges around the world. So again, that should be fixed, and that should come to a stable point. Once that's done, then I think everything is going to be at a much more stable and trustworthy place.
Yeah, I think a lot more money will come into the marketplace by that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Institutional money.
Institutional money and, also individual retail money as well. Nobody wants to put money in an exchange and, log on there the next day to see, the transaction that I put in, half of it didn't take place. What happened here? What happened there? And nobody wants to see that. If you want to buy a stock in the U.S. equity markets, it works beautifully well. NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, those are not those groups have spent vast amounts of energy and resources in perfecting the exchange. So, you can't just wake up tomorrow morning and two or three developers put together a website and all of a sudden provide trading for cryptocurrencies, and it's just not going to work.
Understood. What do you think is going to happen to the ICO or token sale model this year? How's it going to react to the regulatory pressure? Do you think that people will go back more to equity plays to raise money, or will the whole model go away, or what do you guess will happen?
I mean, I don't think the premise of selling a token will go away, because now that it's here, it's not going to fully go away. But I think it's going to become more expensive from a regulatory point of view for people to go through the regular and necessary registrations with the Securities and Exchange Commissions. And I personally think they should, because those rules and regulations are there to protect the investors, and it makes things difficult and a little bit more expensive. But I've already seen many companies who are going through the registration phases now. What's not going to happen is, two guys in a shingle, they're not going to be able to raise $15 million in a token pre-sale. But, whether or not that's something you want to put your money in, really it's up to you to decide at the end of the day. So I think we will see companies that are financially stronger, perhaps with a stronger value proposition, to go out there and raise capital and be compliant. As an investor, I'm only going to invest in companies who are raising via compliant ways. We don't invest in non-compliant companies at all.
Right, makes sense. In addition to, actually starting within blockchain, any niches that you see that are going to really have a resurgence in 2018?
Yeah.
Any particular areas?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So within the realm of blockchain, we look at things around three axes, so to say. One of them is the financial aspect of it. Is this company solving a fintech problem? Is the movement of money involved? You see some companies, for instance, Ripple is a good example of that. They're directly in it. They're all about movement of money, and that's what they do. Then you see other companies in the document management space or identity management, and it kind of starts going down the stack that way. Other companies, they're also in the blockchain realm of things, but they're not about money. So the main question that I ask is this company about finances or not? If you've never invested in a blockchain-based company, I would say that your first place would be a company that's in the fintech space. Why? Because trust is more prevalent there, which is our second axis. How important is trust? The whole premise behind blockchain is verifying transactions. That way, trust is generated in and of itself. So, for instance, if you're an athlete and you're selling your logo on a T-shirt at a basketball arena, and somebody goes and buys that T-shirt, you actually have no idea if anybody ever bought the T-shirt. Now, the arena, the merchant knows, and then the buyer knows, but you don't know. But if it was a blockchain transaction, you immediately see it inside the blockchain because you're part of it, you're a node in it, so you do know. And so a trust element in that case emerges, and it becomes necessary for you to really understand your total loyalty earnings. And blockchain makes that available, without which you really are at the mercy of the reports that you get from the merchant. And the third thing that we look at is the technology itself. I mean, how good is the technology, the blockchain technology? It's not easy to just all of a sudden create, a coin or a token, but we're looking for teams, with deep programming experience, computer science experience, teams who are going to sit down and write the next generation software to take advantage of blockchain and push the boundaries further and further and further to make things happen. So in summary, you look at a company, what's the subvertical that they're in? Is this finance or money related, or is it not? How well is the trust element captured in there, or is there a trust element at all in the proposition of this company? And thirdly, how good is this technology? I mean, I know some investors who are so technical, we do the same thing as well, that they will pull code from GitHub repositories, from public repositories. Those are public repositories, and then they'll review that before they invest in a company to see how good the actual underlying code is. Now, of course, all of these components make it a little bit difficult. I mean, again, investing in early stage private companies, sometimes I tell people it's one of those things like, you see on TV, don't try this at home. It's really one of those things you really need to have knowledge about many aspects of it before you write your check.
Makes sense. Okay. Are there any technologies you wish would be developed that you can invest in that are just not there yet, or that you're seeing just right around the corner almost here?
I mean, actually, Richard, that's a really, really good question. I think blockchain started that wave. But for me, when I look at it, what we call it today, blockchain or, other technologies, we're really interested in things that happen kind of on the distributed realm. All of us are walking around with smartphones, supercomputers in our pockets. And these smartphones, these supercomputers are getting more storage space. They're getting more and more powerful. The CPUs in them are getting more and more powerful. Network internet connectivity is getting better. 5G is around the corner. So I really don't care whatever it's called, blockchain or what have you, but I care about decentralized, distributed computing, taking advantage of the supercomputers that each and every one of us have in our pocket. And so when I look at a company, that's kind of the filter that I'm putting them through. And really, if you look at it that way, it becomes kind of trivial. It becomes so easy to see the true merit of a company when you're evaluating it for investment. So you're looking at a company and they'll say, okay, we're a software as a service company, and this is what we're going to do. And you look at it deeper and deeper, and they're no different than any other company out there. Their platform is on the internet. They took some hostings from AWS, and it's just like everybody else's. Are you excited about that? I'm not very excited about that. I might still, if the team and everything else is right there, it's still worthwhile to invest. But that's sort of like looking back 20 years ago when software was being shipped around the world in plastic boxes. And then around that time, people were making software in plastic boxes and containers, but other people had started making software that ran on the cloud, that ran on the distributed. So where would you have bet more? Both of them would make you money, but one of them made you vast amounts of money and created Googles and Facebooks of today. And so that's the way we really look at it.
Okay. So everything moving towards distributed computing makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of us are, again, walking around with supercomputers in our pockets.
Well, I learned a little bit about mesh computing. That's yet another level of distributed computing, local networks that may not even need to be on the main internet. So it's really amazing the things that are happening.
I mean, there you go. I mean, that's another concept right there. So again, it's not just, blockchain, it has to be blockchain. No, blockchain is like, in the distributed computing realm of things. It's the concept is actually not new. Concept goes back maybe 30 or 40 years, but it just started becoming more and more available now because the computers are getting smaller and more powerful, and the internet connectivity, the interconnectivity is getting faster and faster. And so it's just going to be a natural byproduct of that, whether it's mesh computing or blockchain or whatever else the next thing would be. But when you start talking to entrepreneurs, they put forth their ideas, and you start looking at the technology behind it. If it's in this particular realm to take computing and interconnectivity to a new level, we're interested in that.
Yeah, that's the last question I was going to ask you. Is blockchain's the darling right now, but what other technologies are you guys really interested in, and are you looking at right now?
I mean, a lot of them may not even have names, sort of marketing names like the blockchains of today, but we are constantly looking at technologies that, again, push the limits. It's sort of like, when you look at a company, think about it this way. They're working on technologies such that if they can't pull it off, there won't be any company. But if they figure it out, then everything has changed. But the reason the reason is the technology, not any other attribute of the company. So it's like, well, we're working on this storage. So think about SanDisk, for instance, when they first figured out how to store things in a little secure digital card and how that changed. If they had never figured it out, there would have been any SanDisk, and so many companies tried to push that and didn't work out. Theirs, they figured it out. So we're interested in these companies who are pushing, they're on the cutting edge. If they make it work, it's great. We're not interested in sort of the Me Too kinds of companies. Now, there's nothing wrong with running a Me Too kind of company. It could provide income for you and your family. It could become a lifestyle kind of a company. But if you're after vast returns, then you really need to find companies who are on the cutting edge and pushing the boundaries.
Very good. So what's the best way for listeners to find out more about venture science and talk to you about possible investments, that kind of thing?
Well, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, Matt Oguz. Also visit our website, venture-science.com, and go under the team tab, and my information's on there. You can just add me on LinkedIn and maybe drop a little note along with it so that it's easier for me to kind of understand, the context of the connection. And I think this is a good suggestion for anybody who wants to add anybody else on LinkedIn. Make sure you add a little note in there. That makes all the difference in the world. And then contact me, and I will try to get back to you guys.
Okay. Very good. Well, Matt, thank you for coming on the podcast. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you very much.
Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first. In their covered wagons, they find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's blockchainfuturetechexpo.com. Thank you. You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.